Welcome to the Fly Guys podcast, a wonderful podcast that talks about the Philadelphia Flyers. My name is Justin Goodhart, and sipping on his tea, and it would be, actually, if it is tea, that'd be perfect, is Cameron Klein. We come to you about 13 minutes before the Flyers are going to be dropping the puck. I feel like I should probably have that game on in the background as we do our show tonight, Cameron. But tonight is definitely a show that we don't need to be worrying about recapping a game or previewing a game. Because in about 13 minutes, the Flyers are going to be taking the ice against the Washington Capitals, a team that is, also having their own struggles in a season. The Flyers, just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Cam, were they were like third, bucking for second place in the Metropolitan. And what has happened since is they have lost 11 of their last 13, but the Flyers the Flyers have always been good at this, where they're good at not only losing games, but they're good at losing their heads in the process. It's not enough to just lose a hockey game; they need to lose their dignity as it goes with them. Now, out of humor, I had planned tonight. We hadn't done a show in a little bit. Cameron's been battling sickness. I've been battling sickness. And so we want to make sure that when we're doing a show, we're at 100% for you guys, because you deserve everyone here at Broad Street Hockey at 100%. And you get them at 100%. But I had a monologue that I was going to go in tonight. And I was actually going to talk about something that wasn't the Flyers. I was going to talk to you about the Philadelphia 76ers for a second. That basketball team that plays in the same stadium that the Flyers play in. I was going to talk to you about them, not for the entire show. Come on, we're a hockey cop podcast. I'm not going to talk to you about the Sixers the entire show. But I was going to talk to you about what it means to be a respectable organization and every reason why the Sixers aren't that. I was going to talk to you about why the signing of Paul George was such a joke, and that was before he got suspended for 25 games.
Yeah.
Enhancing drugs. Oh, but I didn't know what I was taking. Yes, I appreciate that. It's a time-tested rhetoric. When you're caught doing steroids or any of the illegal drugs that get you suspended, the first thing you say is, "I didn't know what I was taking." I was, I'm just having steak dinners every night. I didn't know what I was doing. So he's gone, and miraculously the Sixers have kept winning. Don't know if that should say anything, but I think. I was going to talk to you about the fact that the Embiid era will be one remembered as this catastrophically disappointing failure, but not necessarily Embiid's fault. Embiid became a good playoff performer for the most part, an MVP, all these things. I think most Philadelphians that, if you're willing to look past the personality issues, love Joel Embiid for the legacy that he brought to Philadelphia. Hey, Allen Iverson wasn't perfect either. Yeah, we shower him with praise and glory because of 2001. Yeah. And I was going to talk to you about how this is Tyrese Maxey's team right now, and instead of star hunting for Giannis Antetokounmpo, they should just focus on building a team that can win a title around Tyrese Maxey, but they won't because Daryl Morey's an idiot. The point is I was going to give you all of this. Yeah. But now I can't, because the Flyers, I don't get as mad on this show as I used to. I used to be much more of a firecracker than I am these days. Yeah. I tried to give you a more polished review look of everything because, what can I say? Cameron's my hero, and I try to be like him a little bit. But no, screw that, because the Flyers filled their diapers on a podcast during the flippin' Wives Carnival, and I now can't trash the Sixers because my favorite hockey team, the team that I say, they're morally above the Sixers, just came right down to the bottom. Right down to the bottom. I can't talk Sixers. I can't talk about my frustration with the Phillies being the team that's just going to, tread water, because the Flyers are such an unmitigated disaster of a team where they can't just lose 11 of 13 and that be the end of it. No, their head coach has to go on air and talk bad about their Russian superstar. That's what our organization is. I'm not going, and you know what? My frustration goes beyond the Flyers. Flyers Twitter. Fuck you. One to you as well. And I'm talking about the people. And by the way, I don't know any of you personally, for the most part. And I know a couple of you personally, and one person in particular I'm not the biggest fan of. But that's neither here nor there. No one here with Broad Street Hockey. I love those guys. But for for the most part, when it comes to the anger that you see and just the immediate hitting of the nuclear button and just wanting to detonate the franchise. Scrap it, started all over because the head coach said a couple things that weren't great. I wasn't happy about the comments. I just yelled about the head coach's comments. But the fact is that when I see posts like at the 19-minute mark, we will chant fire Tocchet. What if the Flyers score like 9 goals in the first 60 seconds? Can we at least push it to the 18-minute mark? Could we at least, could we push it to then? It's this. You guys think that you know it all, but you don't. If any of us ran an organization, I will throw myself into this hat. If any of us ran an organization, we would run it into the ground because we make decisions based on emotion and not fact. Here's the facts of what happened over the weekend, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cameron. I didn't even ask him how he's doing yet, but I'm going to turn it over to Cameron in a minute because he actually took the time to really dissect everything more so than my brain had patience for. Here's the facts. Rick Tocchet went on a podcast. Rick Tocchet was asked a very simple question about Matvei Michkov and the lack of ice time that he got on that gloss to the LA Kings. By the way, a 3-2 loss in overtime. And then he jumps to the most defensive maneuver imaginable. Go, what do you want? What do you want me to give him like 50 minutes? Should I play him until he's dead? He's fat. He's out of shape. You got to play into shape. And what that started, and God bless, by the way, Kelly Hinkle sitting right in the middle of all that.
I kept thinking of her. The whole interview, I was thinking of her. I was watching her pretty much the entire time. But anyway, yeah.
God bless her. And honestly, if you don't love Kelly Hinkle, you don't love life enough. That woman is a that we are privileged to have here. But I just was like, oh God, this is perfect. I couldn't believe just how quickly one question spurred Rick Tocchet to have what I can only describe as an adult tantrum. Cameron, you dissected it. You went through it like you said, like Dante's Inferno. You went through it. You know what? This is the Flyers fans Zapruder film right here.
Yeah, I dove in because it exploded, right? Like it's very rare that a hockey player or a coach or anybody will give a media bite like that.
Oh,
right. Unless you're John Tortorella, which is like, every other week. But like, it's very rare. We joke all the time about upper body injury. And it's just like, okay, so his neck could be broken or he could have a hangnail. We don't know, right? Kind of thing. So it was partially that, right? So I thought, okay, I saw it. I saw the clip that everyone's seen. And I was like, okay, I want to watch this whole thing. Let's get this whole thing. All right. And I took notes, brother.
Yeah.
I took notes because I wanted to just simply sit there, watch it, go through it, and just write my thoughts down as it went. So I don't know if you can see.
Oh,
man.
Oh man.
Look at that. I mean, that's just that. And that's just from the Rick Tocchet 8-minute segment.
Bill Mattson, Charlie O'Connor, and Kelly Hinkle would all be so proud of you for dissecting it that way.
Because I was like, let me just, and I was pausing every 30 seconds or so, being like, let me write this thought down fully, okay? So bear with me for a second. I'm going to go through it. So when it was first asked, right, the Michkov question, I partially think that Tocchet's answer, which is the whole the crust in the front, whatever thing, I think was partially two things. One, I think he was annoyed a little bit. I think he was annoyed by getting that question so many times.
I think his tone immediately indicates that he's annoyed with Bill's question.
Yeah, and I don't blame him necessarily, right? Because he is getting questioned about the star player all the time.
Yeah.
And I will say this, in terms of defense of him being annoyed with that question, I don't think Michkov is necessarily the answer, right? I don't think his not playing well or not getting ice time is the main reason for the slump that the Flyers are in right now, right? I don't think that. So I agree in terms of Tocchet's, in his defense, I'm like, okay, he's dealing with all these different things, and people keep asking about this one specific thing, which I'm sure is not his major priority at the moment. But that being said, I think that's part of it, right? And that can be somewhat forgiven. But in my stance and in Flyers fans' stance, and I think I'm going to hope to speak for all of us here, right? Which is, we see the team's in a slump.
Mm-hmm.
We see an obvious solution. where you have one of your best players, a foundational player for the future, somebody who scored an amazing amount during his rookie season, took the league kind of by storm, almost won the Calder, right? Was a finalist in the Calder voting. And you see that guy's only playing 10 minutes a night. You take the slump, you take one of your best players, seemingly only playing a limited amount of minutes. You think, hey, if he gets more minutes, that should help him get out of the slump, right?
Yep.
Now, I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't. But I do see the point, and I do see why Flyer fans are looking in that direction, correct? So, I'm reading what I wrote. I'm reading what I want.
It's always tough when you lose.
Okay.
Your play. I know that.
So, beyond that, right, now, to the next angle of this whole thing is that looking at Tocchet and the decision to bring him in. This is the next layer of this lasagna of bullshit in this whole little interview. When Tocchet comes in, to me, he's a part of the same old Flyer crew, right? Which a lot of us criticized before his hiring, where it's the same old Flyers, the same old Flyers. They bring in the old guys, yada, yada, whatever. Bobby Clark, Paul Holmgren, however many years ago,
Yep.
Ron Hextall, Keith Jones now is brought back in, which, again, not saying that's a bad thing, but we don't know. Same old Flyers. John LeClair's back in the building, which not saying that's a bad thing. Rick Tocchet, former player, so on and so forth. And that's kind of been the narrative for this team for however long.
Yep.
Now, in this team's defense, it's a new ownership group. It's a whole new management group at this point, so on and so forth. But that move was criticized by us, by me, by many other Flyers fans as saying that kind of seems like a same old Flyers move.
Mm-hmm.
And adding to that, you have a series of Flyer fans, right? Decades long, generations worth of Flyer fans who have seen head coach after head coach come in that were former players. That did not translate, right? Also, former players that ruined stars. Eric Lindros is one. Now, don't get me wrong. We can have a debate about Eric Lindros and his attitude forever, right?
Yeah.
But let's be honest. At the end of the day, Bobby Clark stripped him of his captaincy because he didn't get on a plane that was going to kill him. That's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to your star player, right? So I think Flyer fans as well are seeing kind of a repeat in history when they're looking at what's happening with Michkov. And once again, a former player from the old crew being the one to kind of be like, I don't know if he's tough enough. Whereas a lot of Flyer fans are saying, I don't care, me included, I don't care how tough he is. If he scores points, I need that. And I understand that there are other aspects of his game that needs to be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in today's hockey, scoring points is the way to go. And this guy produces. I'm willing to take the detriments of his play if it means production. Maybe that's a bad way to go. It could be. It totally could be. I'm willing to admit, as a non-coach and somebody who never played at a professional level, that might be a bad take, right? So there's that going into it too. My issue with this is that a lot of the things coming out of that interview was him mentioning how he came into camp, nutrition, dealing with going to treatment things on time, right? That was kind of the dissection from a little bit of Tocchet's rambling, which I'm trying to take as much as I can from. So what I'm gathering and what a lot of people are gathering from are he didn't come into camp fresh, didn't look good, was out of shape. Okay, right? And then they set up a treatment plan or some other sort of regimented program in order to get him back into shape. And then he did not meet the standards of going to that correctly either. And I'm all in, right? On a coach basically being like, you have to either buy in or you don't. And whether you're a star player doesn't matter to me if you're not willing to do the hard work. And I can appreciate that, right? And so if that is the case, if that is what's happening here with Rick Tocchet, and he's simply saying he hasn't done those things yet, despite being talked to multiple times, because he mentioned it back in November, him coming into camp out of shape, then okay. Then I'm willing to accept it. Then I'm willing to accept the lack of ice time and whatever. But the eye test, that doesn't seem to translate to me, personally. Yeah. Because here's my thing. I'm looking at the production as of right now. And as of right now, the times that I see Michkov play, he's producing. He's driving play. That's what matters to me, right? And Zegras, who is also in a little bit of a slump right now, who was like, what, less than 10% on his face-off percentage against Boston a couple days ago, he's willing to give him the grace, as he deserves it, right? I'm not saying that Trevor Zegras does not deserve patience and grace while he's transitioning back to center. I'm all for that. My point being is that you're going to allow that from Trevor Zegras, but you're not going to allow it from Matvei Michkov, who's 22 years old, who is your star prospect, who is the foundation of your rebuild, because he came into camp out of shape. Camp at this point was 4 months ago.
4 months ago, Cameron.
I don't care about how he came into camp. Sorry. As a fan, I don't really care about it. I care about how he's responded now. And honestly, when I watch play, and again, maybe it's something going on behind the scenes that I don't know. We don't know. But how I watch play, this guy drives play better than majority of the players in the team. He needs ice time, and he needs ice time to develop. And I'm sorry, but this seems to me, given Rick Tocchet's history as a head coach, an ego thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I draw the line. Because the same thing happened with Elias Pettersson, where there was some kind of ego thing, and that's where I'm going to have an issue. If it's a thing of discipline, okay, I'm willing to get that, right? I'm willing to buy into that. However, you're telling me that I'm supposed to believe that Matvei Michkov is not willing to buy into disciplined coaching a year after being coached by John Tortorella, in which the exit interview of the season, Matvei Michkov said it was the best coach he ever had in his entire career. So you're telling me that he's not willing to dive into the discipline? He's not willing to buy into it. Now, granted, he might not be. Maybe him and Tocchet, because of this first introduction coming into camp, maybe they soured on each other, and maybe Michkov does have an ego. And maybe he is saying, screw this guy because he doesn't want to like me or whatever, and I wanted to play with Tortorella. That could be the case. But given Rick Tocchet's track record, I don't know. And then the follow-up question in this interview on PHLY Flyers, PHLY Hockey, by the way, definitely checking out. Bill Metz, fantastic. Kelly Hinkle, Charlie O'Connor, goes without saying how good he is. Charlie O'Connor then says the question that I'm thinking, because Charlie O'Connor is a good journalist, and he says, hey, okay, so is it a thing of on ice? Like if he performs better and goes on a good stretch of games on the ice production-wise, would that buy him more ice time? Or is it something off ice? To which Tocchet says, well, how many minutes do you think he should be getting? 17? Which to me is saying, is very like a toxic being like, well, what do you want him to get? I don't know, Rick. That's why I'm asking you the question, because you're the coach.
You nailed on the head about the ego thing.
And that's what bothered was his response to that question was ego. And so that tells me this isn't a thing about discipline. This is you came into camp, you had a bad first impression with this kid, and now you're taking it out on him. And that, as a fan of the team and as a fan of the Flyers, that's ridiculous. And that's stupid when it comes to one of your star players who is the foundation of your future. That's ridiculous. And here's the thing. I'm probably going to get some shit for this, whatever. Certain star players, do they deserve privileges? Sorry, yeah. Yeah, they do.
They do.
I'm sorry. And I'm not saying like, oh, he should be able to drive drunk and fucking get away with it. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is like, oh, is he not that good in defensive zones at certain points? You know who else isn't good in defensive zones? Alex Ovechkin. He also doesn't back check. He's also considered one of the greatest hockey players in this modern generation. He's the greatest goal scorer of all time, and he doesn't back check. And then he brings up nutrition. I'm sorry. I've seen Alex Ovechkin drinking Coke on the bench. I don't care about nutrition at this point, Rick. Stop being a dick and play your players who are good, rather than Nick Delorier and Garnet Hathaway, who've scored 2 points this entire season. I'm over it. And also, you're allowing Nick Delorier and Garnet Hathaway to get more ice time in the last couple of games. Not overall in the season. In the last couple of games. But my thing is, okay, you're doing that for what? Physicality? Well, then, where's the physicality, Rick?
Where is it?
Flyers are getting bullied on the ice in every forecheck and every back check. So where's the logic in any of it? I don't see it anywhere. And Rick Tocchet knows exponentially more about hockey than I do. And I'm not afraid to say that, right? But when asked about it, his response is, well, how many minutes do you think you should get? You fucking tell me, Rick.
More than
You
10.
tell me.
More than
And
10.
then he says, and it's on me to figure that out. Then figure it out. Dude, I don't know.
You came in. You said to me, Cameron, that you had you listened to it again, and you came out with even less certainty, or just about the same amount of certainty that you come out of it after listening to it the first time, which was 0%. You felt 0% better about the answers.
I got to the point where I rewatched the point that was the highlighted clip that is going viral, right? The Bill Metz question and his response to it. And I got to the point where I settled in and thought, hey, you know what? Maybe people are giving Rick Tocchet too much crap for this. Maybe they didn't dissect his answer enough. Maybe he's simply saying that he's trying to get them to buy in long term. That there are more important things long term that we need to focus on rather than just the simple success of this season, and that this will be better for his development. And I can buy into all of that. All of that is the perfect answer. I'm okay with that. And then he followed it up with Charlie O'Connor asking his question to how many minutes do you think he should get? 17? I don't know. And that to me was kind of the smoking gun, where it was just sort of like, you seem pissed off that anybody's even questioning you, and that's ridiculous. You're in Philadelphia.
You're going to be
questioned on your decisions.
That's the thing.
And not playing your star player is a questionable decision, Rick.
You came from Vancouver. Now, this is not to say that Vancouver is not a passionate hockey city. You think their media market is anything like Philadelphia's? You think the Coyotes' media market was anything like Philadelphia's? You got to expect to get this type of question. And what you can't do is give that look that he's given when answering the question and be genuinely annoyed that he would be asked this question. You know what? We don't have any sympathy for you because, quite frankly, it's your job to figure it out.
That's the other thing.
Hey, he wanted Jack Adams. Paul Bissonnette is talking about how he wanted Jack Adams. Well, guess what? That Jack Adams bought him one more year in Vancouver, as I recall. So you know what? Winning a Jack Adams doesn't mean jack shit.
My big thing, exactly, is who are you? Sorry, but who are you? In terms of coaching, you've had coached a handful of teams. One was a disaster of a franchise, which, again, you got the most out of them to make them not awful. The other was a team that was, I'll be honest, pretty well built, right? Vancouver, a lot of young studs in that team. Mm-hmm. And then you arguably, looking at it now, could have ruined that.
Almost did.
Who are you to come in here and to be like, my coaching philosophy is the way to go? You're a part of John Tortorella's coaching tree, that same philosophy, and he was bounced out of here last year. The only teams that you won a Stanley Cup with were with Mike Sullivan, who's arguably one of the greatest coaches ever, who's also sputtering in New York right now.
Not only sputtering, but think about this. Mike also got himself run out of Pittsburgh. Mr. Two-time Stanley Cup champion. Guess what? What I've long thought...
Was it Mike Sullivan or was it Sidney Crosby? Chris Letang.
Oh, could have been
a great goaltender and an awesome team.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, and this is the reason, NHL coaches don't get the same level of scrutiny that, I would say NBA or NFL coaches get.
Yes. And it's ridiculous.
But here's the thing. I need when a coach in the NHL is going through their coaching career, I like to see how they adjust. What tendencies that didn't work before that they've adjusted from now. And you know which coach did the best adjustment in the history of coaching? And I mean this.
Oh, yes. I know you're going to say it.
John of the Tampa Bay Lightning adjusted. Now, did he have some of the greatest stars of the world? Did he have Nikita Kucherov? Did he have Victor Hedman?
Yeah.
Did he have Stamkos and Andrei Vasilevsky? Yeah, of course. He had a Braden Point. He had all these guys. I understand that. But you know what? That same group of guys was there when they won 62 games and got bounced in round one. Got swept by John Tortorella's Blue Jackets. What happens the next year? Adjust Cup champions 2 times in a row. It is. Oh, you know what? I got another one for you. How about that guy in Florida? How about how it wasn't working in Winnipeg, right? It wasn't working. They had great teams in Winnipeg. They had been, the top 2 team in their division pretty much every year. And guess what? It didn't work out. in Winnipeg. So he goes to Florida. He has okay players. Are we really going to sit here and say that when Paul Maurice first arrived to the Panthers, that for sure we all knew, they're going to win back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Right.
Back-to-back. Now, did the trade of Matthew Tkachuk help? Yeah, absolutely. It helped build the culture that they have down in Florida. But let me tell you something right now, that before that all that happened, Paul Maurice was looked at as a good head coach, not a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Head coach, he makes for a good quip. But you know what? His system changed from Winnipeg to Florida. Maybe not substantially. I'm not saying it's not like he was running the 1-3-1. He goes, we're going to go to 4-1. Like it's not something like that. No one should go to a 4-1. By the way, that was just an exaggeration. But the point is that the great coaches know how to adjust. Rick Tocchet is dealing now with the second time in his coaching career a star that he has an issue with, and he's not adjusted to how to figure that out. And quite frankly, if you feel bad for Rick Tocchet, if you think Matvei Michkov's the problem, if you think that poor Rick Tocchet, he got spurned again by another star, quite frankly, you are looking at this the entirely wrong way. Rick Tocchet's job is to coach the Philadelphia Flyers. Coaching the Philadelphia Flyers means coaching Matvei Michkov to be the best possible version of himself. Matvei Michkov is going to still sit there when this season is over, and if he's dared to be asked, hey, who was better for you, Tortorella or Tocchet? Unless he's bad at lying, he is going to flat out tell the truth. And let me tell you something about Russians. They're very blunt.
Yeah.
They are very direct with you.
Yeah.
I say that about them. I think that, Cameron, you nailed it on the head. He got asked that question, and he got in his feelings.
And I don't want that in a head coach. Sorry.
And you know what, Rick? Now you see why they coached Nick Sirianni on what to say to the media. Now you see why a lot of Philadelphia coaches, a lot of Philadelphia players, they are given PR lessons. I know this for a fact. That many players, when they arrive to Philadelphia, if they are highly touted, take, for example, Carson Wentz. When he arrived to Philadelphia, pretty highly touted, he received public relations courses on how to talk to the media. Nick missed that course before his first press conference, and we saw what the result of that was.
Yeah. The flower? Didn't he say the flower? So I can't remember.
No, his first ever press conference was that it was like he talked like a frat guy. It was unbelievable. It was so bad.
I remember something about the garden, and you had to water the flowers.
I think that was there might have been that, but I'm pretty sure that press conference actually happened after their loss against the Las Vegas Raiders in 2021.
Okay.
And then next week they beat up the Detroit Lions, and I remember because there was an Eagles fan who traveled to Detroit. He was like wearing a flower outfit as tribute to that. But the thing is, Rick Tocchet opens up his mouth, and this is what happens. This is what happens in the city. They talk about New York media. Oh, New York media is so tough. For NHL circumstances, those Toronto media and fans are so hard to work for. Let this be a reminder that being in this city ain't so fucking easy when it comes to dealing with the media. Charlie O'Connor, all things considered, Charlie O'Connor is so mild-mannered. He's so he asks the most respectful, analytical, and logical questions. If you don't follow Charlie, don't know what to tell you, give him a follow. But on Blue Sky, though, because he himself had said he's done with Flyers Twitter. But, if you're finding yourself getting annoyed at Bill Matz and Charlie O'Connor, and I'll throw in Kelly Hinkle into that, even though she was
in mute. She was in mute for that interview.
You know what she was doing? She was soaking it up and realizing, we've got a podcast, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to get mad at those three. What's going to happen when you're dealing with Mike Sielski, who's a fucking rat? How would you have responded to Sielski? How would you respond to when Al Morganti was way more on the beat? Because Al Morganti, he's got a pretty good on what Flyers hockey is.
Yeah.
I just think that it was so obvious what your job was in that moment. You do what every hockey coach and hockey player in the world does. You're asked a question like that, you say, we're continuing to work with them, and obviously it's a little bit of a frustrating time, understandably, but we believe in Matvei, and we know that he's going to continue to make great contributions for us. But quite frankly, like 10 minutes, obviously it's not where we want him. We want him to play more, but, we need to get him to a point where we feel that that's appropriate. Now, that is such a non-answer, obviously, and it doesn't give any specifics, but that's what you do. Hire me, Flyers, to be a PR specialist, because clearly Rick's not listening.
But here's the thing, like, that is a non-answer, but so was his answer. It was just angrier.
You're right, but his was more disrespectful. His was so much more belligerent. His was so much more fanning the flames. It was all of that. You're right. It wasn't an answer, Cameron. But the fact
it felt like this. It felt like him being like, "What do you want me to do?"
Yeah, and which is a great thing to hear from a coach.
Right, like, I want you to coach him. I want you to figure this out, which goes on to what you were just saying, right? Where it was like you want a coach to adjust, and on a micro level, right? Let's look at just this season. Let's not look at his coaching career as a whole. Just this season with the Philadelphia Flyers, they come out solid, right? Month of October, and a lot of us thinking, okay, well, maybe they're just coming out hot. Maybe they're just coming out hot, right? And then all of November playing well, and we're like, well, maybe this is what this team is. December, a little wishy-washy here and there. But at that point, we're thinking, hey, this is a good hockey team. It's a solid hockey team. They've built the foundation. Dan Vladar has really helped this team get to a certain point, right? Then they go in a little bit of a wishy-washy, not great thing coming out of the new year. And then Vladar gets hurt. And my big thing was, now that Vladar's hurt and they're kind of in this slump, how is Rick Tocchet going to be able to fix this, right? How is he going to be able to cruise this ship through the smoky mist night to get to the other side, right? And that was the big test. He didn't get them out of the slump. The slump has gotten worse. And now Dan Vladar is back, and there's no sign of getting out of this slump.
No.
And at this point, it's like we're almost relying on the Olympic break to be the thing that is like, okay, maybe that allows us to reset. But my issue with that is what the old Flyers teams used to do.
Yep.
And when we brought Rick Tocchet in, when the Flyers brought Rick Tocchet in, it was that this is a new era, a new regime, and this is the start of this new regime. This is the first coaching hire of this new regime, and we're going to really go at it correctly. But it's the same old bullshit. That's why I have an issue. And with Rick Tocchet, when I look at Dan Vladar going down, it is on you. It is on you to correct the ship and get them right. Because now this is the healthiest team, and this is the most complete team the Flyers have had in the last 3 years. Am I wrong in saying that?
Only missing Forrester, really.
Other than that, you have Trevor Zegras. You have a full defense. You have a solid starting goaltender. All these things.
And it's
what
not
are you going to do to get them out of this slump? Trash your star player? Okay.
Well, I got good news.
That's a thought.
I have good news.
What?
Matvei Michkov will not be a 0-0 on the goals and assist sheet tonight.
That's good. What?
Owen Tippett's 19th of the year, assisted by Travis Sanheim and Matvei Michkov.
And Tippett's been playing actually really solid. And honestly, Grabenkin...
Well, that's the other thing. Can you talk about the things that have actually been like? Listen, there's not a whole lot to look at positively when you've lost 11 of 13.
Yes, but really quick, I want to get into something. One last point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which adds to the ego thing, right?
Yeah.
And Paul Metz brought it up in the same interview that Matvei Michkov in that LA King game, in the first period, had 6 or 7 shifts where he had 3+ high quality chances. He has one bad play in which he doesn't back check great, relies on a goal against. You don't want that.
No,
you don't want that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then he barely plays the rest of the game, and they lose in overtime, 3-2. You know what would have been nice?
Have him out there.
Some high-quality chances in the third period and maybe in overtime. And you know who does that better than anybody else on the team, arguably, in the last couple weeks? Matvei Michkov. I don't care how he came into camp. That guy is producing for you, and he's giving you the best quality chance to win. And a good coach is going to allow the guy who's going to give him the best quality chance to win a chance to win. I'm cool with you punishing him and benching him for the entire second period. But for you to allow your ego to get to this point where you're not going to let him play at all, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous when you're in a must-win game in these moments.
And also,
now they're playing themselves out of a playoff spot. And I'm sorry, I blame Rick Tocchet for that.
I do too. And let me just also say, I don't actually even think for a second that we should forget that he already benched Michkov in previous moments beforehand where we could have used him on the ice.
Yeah. Oh, that was just one example. That was just the most recent example. Yeah.
Example, it shouldn't let it be known that this is not the only time that these problems with Michkov are it's not like we've only just suddenly figured out that Tocchet's got a problem with Michkov. Someone even said he's in his envelope. I don't know about that, but Pedersen, not North American. Michkov obviously not North American, but it's a funny parallel. I don't actually think that unless there's.
I don't either. But it is funny to think.
The point being that you don't just hurt the team by doing this. Listen to Travis Konechny. Look what they did to our boy. He just wants to make the playoffs.
Hey, dude, he's doing it, and he's doing everything. God, this kid.
He's the next captain. He's the next
captain. Yeah, and he should be. He's playing like it. He's playing like it. I mean, he's playing it like he's putting it all out there.
He's 28 years old. You still got him for his prime.
Yeah.
The man is the man in the last. I mean, in the last 3 years alone, and we're not even all the way through the season. In the last 211 games that Travis Konechny has suited up, he's got 196 points. He's got 52 points in 53 games this season. We earlier in the year we were looking at Trevor Zegras as he was the second coming of Bobby Clark. But all this time, I think that we've been seeing it as Travis Konechny as a guy just put everything together. We already knew this, but this is the team that needs to compete. And by doing this to Michkov and by sullying this season and, quite frankly, your own coaching reputation, you take the potential of this Flyers team that is not as bad as the Chicago Blackhawks. But for the love of God, the more that they do not play up to their capabilities and the more that they have these moments, the more that's all that they'll know. And Rick, you are at fault for that. Unequivocally at fault.
At least right now, yeah.
You're
in hindsight, like in the next 2 or 3 years, whatever, it might be fine, and he might have adjusted and whatever. But for this moment right now, this is frustrating. If this was all done again in the terms of discipline, where Michkov's not going to meetings or he's not doing whatever, okay. But it doesn't feel like that. This feels like ego, and I could be wrong. And I will hold my right hand up to say I could be wrong about that. I didn't love the hiring right out the gate, and maybe that's my own bias, and maybe therefore I'm wrong, and I'm looking to look at the wrong thing. I'm willing to admit that. But everything, judging by how they've played, by that interview, by his answers in the interview, by his answers in the follow-up question, is it's an ego thing. I have a problem with that. That's ridiculous.
You messaged Gus and Bruno. You told me that you messaged Gus and Bruno just after that Kings game, and you just had
I just had thoughts on Tocchet.
and Gus came back and he said stale, right? That was Gus.
Let me make sure it was him to give the proper credit. But I believe he just one word answered me and just said stale.
And guys, as you listen, why is it always so hard?
Excuse me. Gus said it's been infuriating. Bruno said stale. Also, Gus out there, for all those that are wondering, Gus Barber on WBCB Sports. He great guy. Give him a follow, all kinds of stuff. He's just getting into the Flyers heavily now in terms of broadcasting. So he's a good one to follow. But anyway, he said it's been infuriating. And then, Bruno followed up with stale.
And the thing is about that is just guys, it shouldn't be stale when it's a new coach. It's been 4-5 months if you want to talk about training camp and the guys getting to know each other. It's been less than half of a year.
Yeah.
And if fans are saying it's stale, it feels stale. And oh gosh, if everything about this team, for as much as I want to love them and I want to, just watch them every night, everything with this team, from the frustrations of a captain that is clearly gone seasick on this team, and a defensive core that is taking form, and young upcomers we should be talking about. We should be talking about the fact that Owen Tippett's having a good season. We should be talking about Travis Sanheim is as advertised what we believed he could be as a Philadelphia Flyer. What we should
Gurbankin, driving play.
But then instead, I got to sit here and tell you, hey, Cameron, did you know that Nick Deslauriers already has 3 shifts and 2 minutes and 13 seconds of ice time?
Dude. So I was at the Boston Bruin game up here in Boston. Also, let me just throw out there.
By the way,
TD Garden, it's fine. Yeah. Okay, I get that it's a historical building, but it just felt like the Wells Fargo Center with a train station in it.
It's not a Madison Square. It's not Madison Square. So
I've never been there actually. That's on my bucket list, but I would love to go. But whatever. But anyway, but yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like it felt like same old Flyers. Watching that game, it felt like same old Flyers. It felt just frustrating. People not giving a shit. Granted, Harrison played awful again. Sorry, we can get into that too. But yeah, I don't. Yeah. Yeah. The point is, I went to that game, and I could at the game there was points where I just thought, as you put it, as you brought up stale and so on and so forth. I thought to myself, I'm like, this feels like same old Flyers, and I should not feel that way. I did not feel this way 3 weeks ago. What the hell?
I remembered sitting on my couch and like thinking to myself about the Flyers, and I thought they're gonna make the playoffs, like unless they have like some crazy drop off that would like not be called for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you say something like that, the idea isn't that that team should go and do that.
Right.
Like, the drop off is just insane. I haven't looked at. Honestly, it has been a while since I looked at the standings. I now have to take a look. The Flyers are, for one, totally dead. They are 10 points out of a playoff spot. This is crazy to say this. The Flyers are 10 points away from wildcard unit number 2. I understand they're 7 points out from the 3 spot in the Metropolitan, but the aging Pittsburgh Penguins, they're dead. It's over. They're in second place. The Carolina Hurricanes haven't gone anywhere. The Boston Bruins have suddenly resurrected themselves from the dead just in time to the Patriots lose Super Bowl 60. It's insane to me that the Flyers, and they don't, by the way, they don't just lose some of these games. Like, they're losing to the New York Rangers. They're still losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The fucking Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets. Jesus Christ. What are we doing? What are we doing? What is happening?
But then they insult us, Cameron. Then they go to Colorado. They win 7-3.
Like, it's there. I know it's there. We all know it's there.
We all know it's there. Yeah, that's a good point. That's the best way to put it. It's there.
It is there. This is the most complete team they've had in the last 3 years, and that does not mean that they are a contender, but that simply means that they are much better than they were, and they're not playing like it, at least in the last couple weeks. And again, we're going off of the Michkov thing, right? And that's kind of, I didn't want this, and it turned into it, but that's fine because it's the talking point. I didn't want this to be let's talk about the Michkov comments, because again, to me, Michkov is just one of the minor issues in the issues of this team. But it's the Michkov interview just looks like it has so much to dissect from in terms of the rest of the team, in terms of his response to those questions. And yeah, when you look at what the coach is going through, and you look at the fact that this team looks dejected, like they had so many times before, like they did at the end of Tortorella, like they did at the end of Hackstall, right? They just look defeated. They look like they don't care. They look, not that they don't care, but look like they look like they're defeated before they even walk into it. That was supposed to be fixed, and it isn't.
This team 2 years ago, into late February, was a shoo-in for the playoffs.
Yeah,
shoo-in.
Yeah,
they had overcome the fact that Carter Hart was a scoundrel, to put it mildly.
Yeah,
a terrible person, if you want to be more accurate. They had overcome that, and then they had this insane falling off the grid. And I told myself, this team will have grown from this, and they will be in the playoffs the following year. And then they didn't. And then the Tortorella era ended because Tortorella was just, and use whatever words you want to use. But I mean, I had to. My desire to have John Tortorella coach this team, I was made to look like a total fool because of it, because of how it turned out.
I was happy about it too. Yeah.
To go, but then like I'm dragged through. I get dragged through the rakes just to then get to Rick Tocchet, which, by the way, not many people were happy about when that hire got made official. Not like I'm not going to say every single Flyers fan was against the hire, but I do agree, Cameron, with you on one critical issue that we would say is that when this hire happened, all of us said, "Really? That's the best we could do?"
That's a same old Flyers move.
There was no one more cutting edge. There was no one like. What about someone from the John Cooper tree, the Paul Maurice tree, and anyone that wasn't just so like, oh, 90s hockey? Like, I just didn't get it. And it was like one of those moves where it's like, all right, man, I'm going to trust Danny and Keith because, hey, I believe in this idea. I believe that Danny can be a cutting-edge general manager. So why would a cutting-edge general manager not hire a cutting-edge head coach? Focus on the analytics. Well, he didn't. He didn't hire one of those guys.
And in his defense, in terms of like there's a handful of draft picks here and there that are questionable, but most of his drafting, most of his free agent moves, the Dan Vladar signing, a lot of these things are good moves.
And I'll even say,
seemingly. So it's like the idea was just like, hey, I'm willing to trust them because they haven't steered me wrong yet. But you're right. But here's the thing though, as we talk about how stale this team looks and so on and so forth, and as you just put it, with the reaction to him being hired, should we be surprised that this team looks the same they did toward the end with John Tortorella when we hired a guy from the John Tortorella coaching tree?
No.
Why should we be surprised? And granted, like Tortorella never hired Tocchet, but Tortorella had Sullivan. Sullivan branched out to become Sullivan, and Sullivan had Tocchet. It's part of the same coaching tree. So it's like, why? Once again, who's the jackass? Us. Because we thought it'd be different. Why will we think that?
You know what?
Maybe it will be. Maybe I'm just reacting grossly to this thing, but whatever.
Cameron, here's what I'll say. I'm tired of it, like 15.9% on the power play, which is better than last year. Which, by the way, it would have been almost statistically impossible to be worse this year. So don't get.
But you pointed out something to me a couple months back or a couple weeks back where you're like, well, yeah, our power play is better. And you said, you know how many more power play goals we had last year than the year before? One.
I do remember that now. Yeah.
So is it better? Is it?
Only in the percentages is it better. You're right. And then you look at the penalty kill, which admittedly was a strength under John Tortorella for a little bit.
He's a defensive coach.
78.8% on the penalty kill, 18th in the league. The special teams still suck. But hold on, where's Rocky Thompson, right? Like, oh, don't worry, we got Todd Reardon.
I was just going to say, I was Googling the last name to get it right, but I'm like, well, you got Todd Reardon.
I swear to God, you know what? I should assume only drama will exist in the Flyers locker room because you got Rick Tocchet and Todd Reardon as your coaches.
Yeah. Todd, get Barry Trotz, who just won a Stanley Cup, out of the room, Reardon. Yeah.
Take over that team and then proceed to tank a cup contender.
And then we're surprised by ego that's in this locker room right now, right? In terms of the coaching staff. I'm sorry. Like, again, whatever. I'm ranting, and maybe I'm an idiot with a microphone ranting. But at the same time, I don't know. The more and more I'm looking at it, it's just like, listen, follow the smoke. You're going to find the fire. Watch an interview with Rick Tocchet where he just seemed very egotistical in his answers. And then you look at this coaching staff that he surrounded himself with which was just full of more egotistical people that just ran people, successful people, out of the buildings that they were previously in. And Todd Reardon saying, get Barry Trotz out of here. He's not a good coach, even though he just won a Stanley Cup and even though he taught Alex Ovechkin how to back check. Should we be surprised? Are we idiots with microphones, or are we seeing it as it is? I don't know.
I'm just so frustrated that the Pittsburgh Penguins can go from a two-time Stanley Cup winning coach, and then his message runs stale. And they bring in the failed son of Toronto, Kyle Dubas, to run their team, and they bring in another coach, and they're going to make the freaking playoffs as like a 2 seed in the Metropolitan because of course they will. Oh, but they have they're aging stars, guys. What? This isn't 2011. Crosby's not 25 anymore.
It's almost like the star players who are on the ice, who produce, are the ones that dictate the game, and not the coach with an ego keeping said star players off the ice.
Yeah.
Rick Tocchet would be upset with Sidney Crosby because he came into camp late, and he's only going to get 14 minutes of ice time.
Crosby with 14 minutes. He's like,
what are you doing?
Did he get another cut? Like, why the hell did he only play 14 minutes? But that's the thing. Rick Tocchet doesn't seem to understand what so many coaches of the old school in the NHL don't seem to understand still. Hey, it's a players' league. It's about the players. It's not about who can hit someone in the boards the hardest anymore. I'm sorry, but the Donald Brashears of the world are rendered obsolete. They were fun in 2004 in a line brawl with the Ottawa Senators, but guess what? In this day and age, it's about 3 things: puck handling, speed, goals. That's all that matters. There's a reason why the average goals against average and the average save percentage for goalies is steadily decreasing. Guess what? You know what? You know what's crazy? Guys, let me tell you something. I'm going to read off a goalie's numbers to you. And all I want you to do and I'll tell you who the goalie is as soon as I'm going to read off the numbers of how they did in this particular season, and all you need to do is tell me, are they a legend? Are they an all-time great goalie or not? This goalie,
I love this game.
Started 40 games. He won 21 of them, lost 11. 7 of them went to overtime and all that stuff.
Yeah.
A 915 save percentage. And a 2.04 goals against average, which by today's standards would not earn him, not just the Vezina, but it would also earn him every single man or woman, if he chose, that he should so desire.
Who is it? I know who it is. Who is it?
That goalie's name is Robert Esch. Robert Esch in 03 and 04. And by the way, who remembers Robert Esch for being an amazing goalie? No one. But guess what? At the time, the league was not predicated on snipers. The league was not predicated on shifty speed and skill. To make that obvious, the shifty, the best players in the league at that time, if you want to go back to 03, 04, and I only do this just to point out how far we've come as a league. Ilya Kovalchuk, Rick Nash, and Jerome Yaginla led the league in goals that year. Which of those are snipers, Cameron? Kovalchuk had a great shot.
Kovalchuk? I was going to say Kovalchuk, maybe, I would say. Yeah. Most of them they're just physical, tough.
Yaginla, especially,
Yeah.
And so
you're right.
That's
you're
why
right.
goalies were better back then, because the puck was it was just right in front of them. I mean, we were only a few years removed from the whole the you couldn't be in the crease.
Yeah.
Why every goalie's numbers were amazing. That's why goalies could come 15 yards out of their net to play defense. But
every kid coming out of high school now can do a Michigan. Pretty much.
Everyone, yeah. The game is so different, and the goalies aren't worse than your Patrick Waz and all that stuff. Look at some of the goals Patrick Waz gave up in the playoffs. He was like he could be a really bad goalie in the playoffs.
Right.
Is playmakers. The difference is your stars. The difference is how you cultivate that talent and on the ice. Some coaches can do it. John Cooper, Paul Maurice. It's easy to do it when you're oh gosh, I always forget his name. The guy up in Edmonton. Noble's Block, I something like that. No, I need it.
Yeah, I'm blanking too, Damon.
Chris Knobloch. Yeah, it's easy. He obviously has the luxury of having the greatest, player of a generation.
Yeah,
but
but do you think he's giving him shit for nutrition?
Quite frankly, if I think you should knock Connor McDavid down to 7 minutes a game. And I'm not saying Connor McDavid had fat poo-poo pants. I'm saying that because that would genuinely even out the odds on the other side of the ice. Because that guy.
Do you think he's telling Connor McDavid, you're not grinding it out in the corner enough?
No, he's probably saying, Connor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take away from my 150 points a season, and I'll grind it out in the corner a little bit before better for you. Sorry, I'm angry.
I just can't help but make it obvious that we are living in a time where goalie numbers are getting worse, and it's not necessarily because of the goalies. It is strictly because the players are just better now. So if you're not developing your talent, if you're not working to develop your talent, by the way, the number one goals against average in 2003, 2004, Mika Kiprusoff, a 933 regular season save percentage and a 169 goals against average. And guess how that Calgary team did? Oh my God, a goalie like that, surely, if that was they must have made the Stanley Cup final. They did,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost to skill, to Vinny LeCavalier, to Marty St. Louis, to a former Philadelphia Flyer and personal favorite of mine, Ruslan Fedotenko. Otherwise known as the Flyer Killer in that 03-04 Eastern Conference Final. But it just goes to show that we could sit here and talk analytics, we could talk stats, we could talk it's about a players league. Here's how I'm now going to remember Rick Tocchet from this season. That interview. And if the Flyers become a cup dynasty, it's so stupid to say. If they've become such a great team, it won't be because Rick Tocchet's system worked. It will be because Rick Tocchet had to change some things about his system. Rick Tocchet's system as it is right now and how he acts as a person is not that of a NHL coach. It's a guy that got sentenced to probation for gambling. That's what his personality reminds me of.
I think you worded that fantastically.
Yeah.
No, I think you worded that fantastically. I think it would. Yeah, I think it's he needs to adjust, and if he doesn't, it's not going to work. And again, I'm not saying that his coaching is bullshit and that it sucks and that it's all his fault. I'm not. I'm willing to say that hey, he could turn it around and figure it all out. I could be wrong, but yeah. You have to adjust how you handle these players. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't manage everybody the same. This is coming from my experience simply watching my father as a foreman on construction sites, where certain people he talked to, every single person he talked to differently. And I can say firsthand, without a doubt, my father was a good leader in those areas because he got the jobs done every time. And he got praise from it. He got respect from people underneath him. He got respect from people above him. And the reason was because he treated people differently. Because you can't manage everybody the same because they're not the same. So I'm sorry, your whole my way or the highway bullshit does not apply. You have to adjust to how you talk to people and how you coach these players, Michkov included. Michkov more than any of them, to be honest, because he's the star. He's your foundation to the future. Yeah.
Agreed. Nothing much more to say about that. As we wrap things up here on the Fly Guys podcast, which is presented by Fanduel, and if you're looking at your Fanduel odds for, Michkov goals, whatever number you've got, whatever you slammed on, if you can cash out, I hate to say it, I think I'd cash out. I think I'd go, you know what, while you're actually with me on this, things are changing a lot about the NHL right now. The latest cup odds, by the sports books have been put out. And let me tell you something, Cameron. Right now, unsurprisingly, though they're in a bit of a rut right now, the Colorado Avalanche still with the best odds at a plus 220. But you know who I'm really liking right now? I'm falling for the spell again. I'm kind of liking the Edmonton Oilers plus 1,100 guys.
Dude, you gotta stop.
From a betting perspective, this is a smart play. Back-to-back Western champions, back-to-back times they got to Game 7. It's just if a certain team
trade it for a goaltender. Trade it for a goaltender. Right. Yeah, okay.
Guys, turns out not bad. But another team that's in the mix that again, it would be heavily unlikely, but I'm saying the Detroit Red Wings plus 5,000. Let me tell you something. Red Wings are in a good spot right now, guys. Not a bad spot.
I caught it like 2-3 years ago. I was like, Steve Yzerman. He finds gold. So just give it a little bit of time. Give it a little bit of time. Yeah. No, I don't think that's a crazy pick. I'm not gonna say that they're gonna win, but it's one of those things in terms of betting odds. Yeah, you could throw $10 on it. All right, just throw it.
Right now, I'm going to tell you guys right now. Here's my pick. Here's my one pick that you can take whatever you want with it. The Colorado Avalanche should get the President's Trophy. I'm just going to say it right now. They should. They currently sport 81 points. The next closest team to them are the Minnesota Wild with 76 points. And do we really think the Minnesota Wild when you think of President's Trophy winning team, do you think of Minnesota Wild? Give me a break.
Right.
Well, here's the thing about the Colorado Avalanche. They are reminding me somewhat of another hockey team, the 2011 Philadelphia Flyers. And the reason why, and I'll tell you why, the Flyers got off to an insane start, like an insanely good start. They were winning games like crazy. But the thing about a long NHL season is that over time, you have your lumps and your bumps. And I think that the Colorado Avalanche are not only going through their lump and bump right now, but I think that it could very well see them not result in being the President's Trophy winners. So if you want a team, if you want to get a possible team that could absolutely swoop in at the last hour and get the President's Trophy winners at plus 4,500, the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars, 7 points back. If you want a slightly safer bet, maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're plus 750 right now. But the Dallas Stars, they've been a great team in the regular season for years now. We all know that.
Surprising. They're a very, very old team. And also to add to your Tampa Bay Lightning pick, too, a lot of healthy stars coming back. Vasilevsky has been back for over a month. Solid. Victor Hedman just came back this past Sunday in the Stadium Series game. Has an assist. They win the game. Not bad picks, man. Not bad picks at all. And I'm very surprised about the Dallas Stars because they're very old.
Listen, I'm not picking the Dallas Stars to go very far in the playoffs. This is what happens to Dallas. They have a great record. But the thing is that they know how to win the games that don't matter. And that's it. That's the mark of a great team.
That's a mark of a great President's Trophy pick on Fanduel is what it is. Yeah, that's a good point.
So head over to Fanduel right now, make your picks, get your locks in for the playoffs, get your locks in for, maybe individual awards. Could talk about that at some point. My name is Justin Goodhart. I'm a Philadelphia Flyers fan, a sad Philadelphia Flyers fan. This man's name is Cameron Klein. He is also a Philadelphia Flyers fan, probably also sad. But with us together, we are the Fly Guys Podcast. Be happy, be healthy, and as always, let's go Flyers.